Steven, do not make fun of me. Do not make fun of me.
What was that? Terminator?
Do not. They are great glasses. They are great glasses. I really look.
You love that 90s sunglass look.
I do love the 90s sunglass look. So when I turned on the Zoom camera before I called you, I was like, oh, that's what I look like right now, with almost a shaved face for the first time in a couple months, and my sunglasses on.
Do you prefer, for those wondering, Jared is wearing his sunglasses because he got his eyes dilated, but do you prefer like those glasses because they almost do a full wraparound?
Yeah, I don't like aviators. I think aviators are terrible.
You don't need to get aviators. You can get more stylish modern
Ray-Bans.
Yeah.
No, they all let light in on the sides and the top and the bottom.
I can't wait till you're that grandpop wearing those giant wraparound goggle glasses.
Look, I ref hockey with rec specs on. We'll talk about that in a minute. But
exactly.
no, I am wearing my glasses because it was my yearly exam to get my eyes dilated and everything checked. Now, I was in there a couple of weeks ago because I've got some issues with my eyes where I have some things show up right in my field of view, and I have to take some medication to try and get rid of those things. And I have some goop that's it's like a $600 medication that's $120 still for a tube like this is $120.
Wow.
And but it worked in my left eye. But then we go back today, and my left eye's clear, and now my right eye is showing the issues that the left eye was showing. So it's kind of frustrating that it pushed it out of one and it went in the other. But you know, the only way I realized that the right eye was doing that, because normally when I cover my left eye at the thing, you know how you read the thing in front of you on the screen?
Yep.
In this case, they project stuff, and they project the letters, and I know IGNU is always there, EGNU, because I've just memorized it after all the years of going there.
You can't even see it, and you're just like, IGNU.
I'm like, IGNU, you got to use something new. And so in the past, they used to use like birthday cakes. Which way is the birthday cake pointing? And all that type of stuff. Well, this time around, I'm using my right eye, which is not my good right eye. And it turns out that it's slightly a little blurry, and my eye shakes from the nystagmus. And I'm looking at the letters. And all I see up there when I'm looking at the letters is GAY. So I go, gay. And she starts laughing. And she also, I should preface that she has pink, blue, and purple hair, whatever that means.
What does that mean, Jared?
Whatever that means. She might have a rainbow hair, but I read gay. I wasn't thinking. She said, read the letters up there. And I'm like, gay. And I'm like, well, but that's what I see, GAY. She's like, nah, it's not right. But then she was laughing. But no, it definitely didn't say gay. But that would be funny if they actually could change the letters and have people say like fuck and all this other shit.
FUCK.
Balls. Is that a B? Is that an A?
BOOBZ.
But no, seriously, boobs. Yeah, but really, that's what I saw there. And then when the doctor came in and looked at my eye, she's like, "Oh man," she's like, "It jumped to the other eye, so you have some of the dryness there and some of the stuff right in your line of view." Now, I don't give a shit about the right eye because I don't use the right eye. I can't see out of the right eye very well, so it doesn't matter. Oh, now's a good time to talk about. I just started reffing hockey again. Welcome to RAWtalk episode 18, where we talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about with a little tinge of photography, because we will be going into stories about Sony's CEO talking about mobile phones surpassing the quality of mirrorless, full frame cameras. We'll talk about that in a minute. We've got something from the New York Times. It's an interesting article that makes no sense, but we'll talk about it. We've got the new Sony FX30 to talk about, something with Spotify. I did ref my first game, and I also did teach my dad's class because he's taking a college class, and we will talk about that. Yeah. Oh, and Scotty wants you to know that he thanks you for reading his comment.
You're welcome, Scott.
He sent a text message, and if you were checking the text line, you would have seen it.
I actually didn't check it this week.
That's okay. You didn't miss very much.
Yeah, I figured.
So I transitioned not from reading the word gay on the screen to anything, but transitioning to reffing hockey. After telling you that my eyes don't work too well, yes, I'm an actual official. I've been reffing hockey. I think my first year was 93, 94, or 94, 95. And I haven't reffed in 6 years. And so I went through, got my certifications again. You have to get your fingerprints scanned in Pennsylvania and get an FBI check for it because of Jerry Sandusky raping little boys in showers.
Oh, wow.
And so now you have to do that in Pennsylvania in order to officiate or work with minors or work with youth, which are the same thing as minors. You have to get past background checks and cost you a bunch of money to do. But anyway, I went out and did my first game and I really enjoyed it. I love skating, but I wear rec specs underneath my visor because you have to wear a visor, right, to protect your eyes as an official. But I actually love the fact that I wear these rec specs that are prescription, and hopefully people don't give me shit. I mean, they can give me shit. I don't really give a fuck about it, but it's actually double eye protection because rec specs are protecting my eyes because they're right against my eyes.
Sure.
And then the shield is another form of protection. So I like protecting my eyes because it's more important to see than to worry about how I look on the ice.
Well,
like
especially when your line of work is very visual based, photography. I don't even know how people like you, like how you're kind of
What do you mean
blind.
people like me? What do you mean people like me?
People like you rocking these Terminator sunglasses from 1990.
Nailed it.
No, it's got to be tough for you to do photography while you have a serious eye condition. I mean, you always say you kind of see shapes more than actual, objects.
Well, the thing is, Steven, when you don't know, like, for instance, you have a small penis, you wouldn't know what it's like to have a big penis if you never had a big penis.
I mean, that's your problem, man.
Oh, that's my problem. Sorry, I meant to say it's my problem. So I don't know what it's like to have a big penis when I'm so used to being Jewish and stuff. And so when you say
you said it, not me.
It's funny when you say I'm Jewish to girls, they're like, well, I don't know what that means. I've seen some big Jews. And anyway,
Hebrew Hammer.
So when you don't know what it's like to see properly, my vision's what, 2030, 2040.
Okay.
And when they're not good, when the eyes aren't good, it's probably like 2050, 2060. What that means is what you see at 60 feet, I see at 20 feet. So I get to be that fucking close to things to see it. Now,
I'm well aware. That's why we use 50-inch giant teleprompters and you're 10 feet away.
That's why we have a massive...
still can't read it.
I can read it for the most... I read it very well now that we got it at 138-point text.
Literally, it's 138-point text.
But the thing is, I don't know what it's like to see really well. But the zoom lenses and lenses are kind of extensions of my eyes. And I've always said that I feel like I have better peripheral vision. So I can kind of see behind me, which is weird. I feel like I don't know what other people see. So maybe I make up for bad vision with being able to see wider. So
I mean, it's almost like your nystagmus lets you... Your pupil seems to go more to your right or left side.
Because it shakes.
Yeah. I wonder if that does give you more of a peripheral vision.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that does. But I enjoy reffing hockey. Now, what I don't enjoy... So, for those who don't know hockey or ice hockey, I was reffing 12U Elite. That's 12 under. They used to call them Pee-wees, and that was like AAA. Elite is like the highest level of Pee-wee, which is great. The kids skated really well, and it was my first game skating in 6 years, and it felt incredible. I really enjoyed it. What I don't enjoy are coaches making stupid quips, like having a YouTube comment section chase me around the ice. And the coach had something stupid to say, and I just...
Did you respond?
Of course I responded.
Of course you did. You're Jared Polin.
No, but it's disrespectful what he said.
Yeah,
it's super disrespectful. I mean, and whether he was joking or not, especially because he was winning, they were winning, he was just like, winning, he was like, oh, it smells like home cooking. And for those of you who don't know, when that's the away team... Smells like home cooking is basically calling you a homer. And the definition of a homer is saying that you are officiating a game because and calling it in favor of the home team because you want to see them win. I don't fucking care who wins your 12-year-old game. I turned around and was like, Coach, are you kidding me? Like, why would you say that?
At the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if there are homers out there when it comes to reffing.
I don't know. I ref at 30. I have like 4 or 5 different rinks I can ref at.
Yep.
Some are in Jersey, some are in PA. They're all over the place. I don't care who wins. I have no desire. I want to see a good game. I want to skate a good game. I want to call a good game. I don't want to blow out.
Yep.
And so I said to I said to the coach, I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, do you think I care who wins? Now, in the future, I said something to my brother. Now, my brother refs basketball. My dad umps baseball and refs basketball. And I did hockey and baseball back in the day. So I used to do both. But my brother's like, yeah, you should have turned around and just said, are you calling me a cheater?
Huh.
Really? Are you calling me a cheater? Because that is exactly what you're saying by saying that smells like home cooking. And so really what I should do in the future, and I may do this, is just pull the coach down, not like physically rip him off the bench, but be like, come here. because I said something to him after the game. I'm like, don't ever do, like, please don't do that again.
How do you respond?
It's so disrespectful. Well, what happened is he had to end up running off the ice because I guess the two teams were trying to maybe yell at each other. These are 12-year-olds, yell at each other under the bleachers, and they're looking to me to go stop it. I'm like,
suck. No, you suck.
I'm like,
you suck.
I'm like, they're off the ice. It's not my problem. They're off the ice in the locker room. Let the parents deal with it. I'm not here to do that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
you're not babysitting.
No, well, it's almost like babysitting because the game, and I'll come. Well, anyway, anyway, he ran the other way, but in the future, it's just like, please don't make those jokes. Like, even if you think it's a joke, it's not fun for me to hear that, or for my partner that I'm reffing with to hear that, because we're out here calling a game. I don't care who wins. I don't care who loses. I just want a good game. So don't question my integrity, or I'll just tee you up.
Yep.
The next day, I'm doing another game. And it was a terrible game. It was just a terrible game because it was like new learn to skate. It was a 12-year-old game, a Pee-wee game again, but like Pee-wee B, so it's really bad, new skaters. And I guess the goalie took a puck off the mask. And so at the next stoppage, the guy doing the scorekeeping honks the horn and he calls me over and I'm like, what's up? He's like, well, the goalie just took a puck off the mask. You should make sure he's fine. He's supposed to go to the bench to get checked out. And then the other coach on the other team comes over. He's like, yeah, that's a new rule in this thing that says if they take a flush puck into the mask, they have to go get checked out on the bench. And I'm like, is there a doctor? I said, he's like, well, this guy's a doctor. I'm like, well, in that case, fine. But I'm like, really?
Aren't they wearing giant like cage masks?
He's got a mask. Yes. And if he jogged his head, he jogged his head. But I'm like, goalie, you okay? He's like, yeah. Like I'm not gonna sit there and go, like, the kid goes to the bench. If there's not a doctor on the bench, if the kid's wobbly and he goes, hey, what's your name? And he goes, I'm Batman, then you know that there's something wrong with him.
Now, when it comes to officiating, do you get updated on these new rules and regulations along the way, or like when you applied for the 2022 season?
So I read all of the new rules, but then those are the USA Hockey rules. Then there's individual leagues, DVHL, UHF, or whatever the hell it's called. There's all these different leagues, and they must have different rules and regulations for certain things. And so, no, I don't always see what they might be. And so just make me aware of that, and then I'll look into it. But
if the goalie thinks he's Batman, get him off the ice.
Well, right, common sense. But I was just like, really? I looked at the guy dead in the face and said, is there a doctor? Because I'm not checking. I'm not a doctor. It's not my responsibility.
I mean, you don't see anyone with a Leica around their neck, right?
I was just going to say, I don't know. Do you see a Leica around my neck right now? Do I look like a doctor to you?
So did you skate? Are you still skating like the ZVE10 video where you almost fell over every 5 seconds?
So let me explain to you that what happened. In the ZVE10, I was wearing brand new skates.
Excuses.
No, custom skates. So there are these custom Bowers. And when you get new custom skates versus 20 years ago, when there was leather in the boots, now they're all this hard carbon fiber and plastic, and they weren't molded well to my foot. And I've got this bone on the inside of both of my feet that protrudes out, which then caused a lot of pressure, which then caused me not to be able to skate well. So no, I actually used my old skates, my Super Tac 1152 Mark Recchi Pro skates that I paid. So I paid $360 for these skates back 15, 16, 17 years ago. The new skates, I was at the store yesterday to get them remolded. If you were to get custom skates today, $1,200.
Wow.
I paid $900 for my custom skates last year.
Wow.
But custom skates are more stiff, and so they're remolding them and punching out that area in my foot. We'll get to photo stuff, but banging out that area in my foot so that it doesn't hurt. And so when I'm doing a shitty game in a couple weeks, so like a 10U, which is like a 10 and under, I will be wearing, I'll probably put on the new skates to just at least try to break them in. But I'm going to keep wearing my old skates because they're just so comfortable.
Well, coming back to the conversation regarding your awesome sunglasses and the eye doctor appointment and rec specs, I mean,
yeah,
I think it's so important to have serious eye protection when you're doing photography, like just protecting your eyes at all times, because that is your bread and butter. You're using your eyes for your craft.
Well, you don't want to be Helen Keller, so or Anne Frank. You want to make sure that you have your eyes when you see. I mean, I'm still reading the Diary of Anne Frank, and it is so painful to read because It's just painful. I never read it. I didn't have to read it in school or anything, and so I'm still working my way through it now. And it's sobering. It's insane to read what they were going through, and knowing what they were going through at the time. I had no idea when reading this that in 1941-42 they knew that their friends, other Jews, were being taken to other places and never coming back.
Oh yeah.
And then now I'm watching the Holocaust in the U.S. from Ken Burns on PBS, and it's insane that we knew a lot more. It just and the fear of letting people into the country. I don't want to go into it, but if you get a chance to watch the Holocaust in the U.S., it's pretty sobering and eye-opening. And speaking of eyes, you definitely should go check your eyes out. You should go to the eye doctors. You should get them checked out every year. You should wear them when you're doing lawn care. You should wear them where there's any chance of you having something riding a bike. Of course, I wear my glasses while riding the bike all the time.
Well, I will say I used to not be a huge proponent of wearing eye protection when doing lawn care because
Which is dumb.
Thanks. I would just be mowing the lawn.
Stupid.
And then one day I was weed whacking and I got debris in my eye and I thought I scratched it or something. Luckily I went to the eye doctor, everything was fine, but ever since then I've been very big on eye protection, and I'm talking kind of like rec specs, all around eye protection, because you never know, it might come from under if you're wearing Ray-Bans or aviators or something like that. You might have a rock that gets ricochets off something
comes
and
right
comes
in your face
from the side. Exactly. So eye protection is huge, and just wearing sunglasses in general when you're out in the sun. I don't have super sensitive eyes like you and Dan. I have shit brown eyes, so I'm pretty good. I don't really need sunglasses in terms of like they don't hurt my eyes, the sun.
No,
but
it's
still
probably
should
protecting.
wear it at all times.
Well, that's the thing. The wear and tear of the sun and the UV rays and everything hitting your eyes.
Yep.
Will probably you'll probably end up macular degeneration.
Exactly.
And so I wear my sunglasses if I'm outside and it's sunny. Even if it's overcast, I'll still wear them because my eyes just, I just need them.
Well, and I double dip. My eye protection are polarized sunglasses as well. So it's a little bit of both.
Moving on, Steven. Moving on.
You don't want to talk about hockey for another 20 minutes?
Well, of course. I have a couple of games coming up. I'm going to be doing 16U games now. I'm going to be doing 16U games, 16 and under. They used to be called midgets. I don't believe they call them midgets. It used to be mite, squirt, peewee, midget. No, I don't know why it was called midget. I don't know why, but that's the term they used. So now it's 16U, and I should be okay, but it's going to be a much faster game. The kids are much bigger than me usually at 16. And
do you get yelled at a lot more? From the actual players?
The kids may say stuff, but I'm one of these officials where I'm like, look, if you got a question, come up and ask me.
Yeah.
Don't disrespect me. Don't tell me I fucking suck. Don't tell me to get out of the fucking way. Don't do anything stupid, but I'll give it right back to you. I'll be like, oh, really, kid? But I like to have a good discussion. It's fine. I'm not one of those coaches. You know how much you get paid, refs? You know how much you get paid for a 16U game?
$75.
90.
Woo.
$90.
That's a nice chunk of change. And how long are the games?
Those are 17-minute periods, so there's 3 of those.
Not bad.
So it's like an hour and a half, hour 45 probably for the 90, which isn't terrible. It's just also a good skate. It's good exercise. So I recommend that if anybody out there played hockey or knows how to skate, they're always looking for officials. It's a great way to get exercise. It's a great way to make extra money because you're not making $7.25 stocking shelves.
Yeah.
Speaking of photography, I was my dad is taking a fine art. Modern art history class.
Oh.
Modern art history. And there's a section where they talk about photography and history of photography and break down some of the photography stuff as how it pertains to art.
Like, I think I know someone that does photography.
So my dad mentioned to his professor, his teacher, that my son does this. So I spoke to the teacher and she invited me in to speak to the class.
Did she know of you?
No, I don't think she knew who I was. Her daughter may have known who I was because her daughter is 9, right? So maybe she didn't know, but her mom told her that I was coming into class, so she was super excited that it was a Jewish holiday that she could come into class on Monday and be there because her and her friend are making a YouTube channel. She kind of said the cutest thing ever.
So she likes the YouTube aspect, not so much okay.
She kind of said the cutest thing ever to her mom. She's like, Mom, I need to get home because I need to make a video with so-and-so. So she's like, so-and-so does the editing. I'm the person on the camera. She's like, no, she's like, it's a big deal because a channel with 200 subscribers contacted us and they want to shout us out. And I was like, I'm like, that was
that's
so
awesome.
cute.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was the cutest thing ever. I'm going to go comment, you suck on this video.
You're gonna be
Just so that they get used to it.
subscribers.
Get used to it,
Look
kid.
at these peasants.
You only have 12 subscribers. I'm just subscribing to yell at you.
Negative comment. Negative comment. Negative
You
comment.
suck. You suck. She's 9.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, this is what it's like. I'm just a keyboard warrior. I'm training you. There should be a class in college called negativity training or how to reply to comments. Did you see my comments the other day replying to that guy?
Who?
Oh, let me see if I can read on my phone yet. If my eyes are pretty much better. So the other day I put up on Facebook, and I'll come back to the class thing. This is photo related. I put up on Facebook that I was looking for people to submit their best 10 images to do free rapid fire critiques, because we're always, every once in a while, we need some extra content that we just have ready to go when we're busy. And so a bunch of people did. I did it on Facebook because it's the easiest place to do it, even though we don't really use Facebook. And then a guy commented, the day I get Fro to judge my pics after seeing his shitty work is laughable at best. I go toe-to-toe with the guy at shooting pics in a heartbeat. Flex emoji, sunglass emoji.
Was his
And
name
this is from-
Stephen Eckert?
His name's Damien Sky. So I went over to his channel and I looked at one of his pictures that was posted 6 days prior and left a comment.
Did you critique
it? I said, your photo's been up for 6 days. It has 0 likes and it has 1 like and 0 comments. Go fuck yourself. I'm just like, this is what it's like. So anyway, I do comment back to him on my page and I'm like, Damien Sky, so why don't you simply fuck off then? Why come here and spew your negativity and bullshit? And I always get people who are like, whoa, you're just giving them ammunition when you comment back.
I mean,
every
they're not
once in a
wrong.
while. No, they're wrong. Anytime, every once in a while, you can comment back and just tell someone to fuck off. I don't have to be the bigger person. I block them too. I can block them so they no longer can see my shit, but I left them live long enough so they could see my comments.
Or the best is back in the day, I don't know if you still do it, but you would respond to a YouTube comment who was, a negative comment, some dickhead comment, and you would write something nasty back, but then you would delete the comment so they would get a notification, like an email notification or on their phone, and it would read your comment, but it wouldn't be live to the public. And
Well, the
basically
problem
say,
is,
fuck off.
I don't think I can write fuck off on Instagram. It blocks it now. So
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But no, really, every once in a while, telling someone to fuck off is perfectly fine. Leaving those stupid comments, really? You've got to sit there and leave a comment on my page saying that the day I critique your work, I have shitty work. We know I don't have shitty work. I know I don't have shitty work, Steven. I know my work is good. Look, I know my work is good, okay? I understand that. I've done a lot of good stuff. I didn't say that, but one of the best of the best. No, I just like trying to get you to spit out your coffee or water. That's why I keep saying the things I say when you take a sip of water, because I'm trying to get you to spit it out.
Oh, geez.
So for all the people that can't see this at home, I was watching an old episode of RAWtalk video because I wanted to see something, like how many views it had and then how many watch time hours and all that. And it was kind of funny that people were sending in memes and videos that they would actually do this work.
Memes
good,
of the week. Yep.
But then also it was really childish, and I didn't like that aspect of it now.
Remember the one guy would do like movie posters, and me, you, and Todd would be like the featured characters?
That was funny stuff.
It was.
That was funny stuff.
And the one guy did that Lego animation.
Yeah,
I don't know if
funny
you ever
too.
finished, but that was good.
The one for Thanksgiving where I'm reciting the history of Thanksgiving and then they animated it and I'm like, how?
We had some creative viewers, man. They're good.
Yeah. That makes me always question, like, should we start a new channel with podcasts and that? But whatever. We're building the numbers here. We should have surpassed. Oh, you know what we didn't talk about, Steven? As I go 4 layers deep from the Teaching My Dad's class.
Oh, my God.
We didn't say what happened. Tell everybody what happened on why the episode wasn't up on time.
I don't know what happened. I mean, we put it up live I put it up at 11:30 p.m. I scheduled it. I happened to wake up in the middle of the night.
Prostate problems?
Maybe. But it wasn't there. It wasn't on Spotify. It wasn't on Apple Podcasts. And then I went to the actual Libsyn player page, which usually if it's there, that means it just hasn't been released or processed on the other services. So it usually means, in time it'll get there. But it was corrupt or something like that. So I was trying to play it and it would say 404 error and all of this kind of stuff. So I deleted it, re-uploaded it, woke up at 6 a.m. and looked at it again, and same thing happened. It was corrupt file, and we went through how many times of re-uploading it until we're just like, we just have to wait.
Well, I contacted their customer support. So me as an educated consumer first types in, is Libsyn down? Because whenever you want to find out if a service like is Instagram down, you can look up these sites and they will tell you. And it said everything was fine.
The issue is not just is Libsyn down. I've had this in the past happen, and it's very hit or miss. Like sometimes you just simply delete it and re-upload it, and it's fine. And then sometimes it does something like this, where it just does not process and post.
So after a bunch of hours, there was no reply. So I took to Twitter and I publicly sent them a message, and they're like, well, as of now, everything seems to be fine. And then I sent them a DM and I'm like, it's not fine.
Clearly
we re-uploaded, we re-exported, we tried everything. We know what we're doing.
I did everything, yeah.
So it ended up going, I ended up getting a message a little later on from technical support who was like, we found the issue. Your media file wasn't attached any longer, so we reattached it, and now it works fine.
Which I don't even know how do we even do that on our end? I don't think we even have that access.
I don't know. Yeah. So it wasn't us. They ended up finally getting it fixed in the afternoon, and it went live, and we're at about 7,000 in the first week of listens so far, so that's good.
Nice.
It's been climbing because we promote it organically in Raw Photo News Fix, which is a great place to promote things because we go in deeper about nothing we actually want to talk about, because I talk about hockey and my eyes and all that stuff.
It's the Jared show.
Right, it's the Jared show. But
I mean, it got to the point where you're like, you got to re-export it, you got to redo it, blah, blah. I'm like, dude, it's not the file. I've done the same process every single week, and I've never had this issue. It's clearly something on their end at this point.
Yeah,
I've
and I said, don't worry about it.
I've renamed it.
I did. Got to the point. I'm like, stop worrying about it. I'll get in touch with them, and it's them. It's not us, and just it will be a minor blip. I put out an Insta story. I put out a tweet and said it's not us, because I would get messages. Look, don't send us messages like, where's RAWtalk? Did you forget? No, we didn't forget.
It's got to be frustrating, though, and that's why I wanted it to go up live at the night before, because a lot of people, I'm sure that's their Friday commute at this point, and they're listening on the way there or even on the way home. And I was at least trying to get on the way home, that commute home, that they could listen to it, but I don't think it went live until 5, 6?
No, it was like 3, 4 o'clock.
Oh, 3, 4?
It was 3, 4 o'clock.
Maybe they got it.
In the future, if you ever have an issue, not Steven, you can go to froknowsphoto.com/podcast. Generally, the podcast player part is working.
But it wasn't that week.
It was, and it wasn't, and it was, and it wasn't, and then they fixed it.
Yeah.
So that's what happened. I forgot about putting that in my notes. We should have talked about it. But back to teaching my dad's class. Modern art history class. I surprised him that I was going to be speaking to the class. He didn't know I was coming in. I was supposed to be in NASA.
He didn't know you were coming in.
No, because I was supposed to be in NASA for the launch attempt, but the hurricane put a damper on that, and I did not go, obviously, which was a smart decision, and they canceled the launch. So I introduced myself. It's a class of like 15, 16 people.
Was he surprised?
Yeah, he was. He sat in his. He sat
was
in
he
the.
What
in
are
the
you
chair.
doing here, Jared? Son?
No, I actually Insta-storied it. I'm like, surprise.
Oh, I didn't.
He's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm teaching your class today. He's like, you are? I'm like, yep.
He's like, but I'm smarter than you. You're not going to teach me anything.
It was a good discussion. I brought in some examples of Polaroids and talking about a little bit of history of photography, and then transitioning a little bit to how art and photography mix, and the discussions about graffiti on the walls, and that art?
Yeah, Jared,
one girl, because I earlier in the class I said
tagged
something.
your building with art the other day.
Yeah, one thing I said earlier, I said there's no more gatekeepers. You can do what you want, because there's artists in the class who want to be artists. So that definitely takes me into the route of how to make money, because you can't be a starving artist. You got to make money.
Yeah.
And so a little later on, one girl was like, because I was talking about graffiti and someone tagging my wall, and I think that's bullshit, and she's like, whatever, gatekeeper. I'm like, I guess that's better than saying, okay, boomer. But let me just say, until you actually own a wall, don't think it's not a big deal if you don't actually own a property.
Yep.
To say that someone else graffitiing, that's not art. It's not art. And then the teacher started talking about how in the 80s in New York, they would tag people, not her, but people would tag the MTA system, the mass transit system. Their names would be seen throughout the boroughs, and that's how people became to know them, because they would tag it. The one guy's name was Seen. And so whatever, that was tag. I don't think tagging's art, and I will be having someone...
Unless it's your own property.
Well, and I talked about
or
that.
Or you have permission, like Gloss Black. We've dealt with him in the past.
I reached out to that one kid because we have a green building, and I wanted to have him paint Oscar the Grouch on the back of it because I thought that would be a funny little mural to have. And we got into this whole thing how he's like, I don't have to make money, you can't be a capitalist, and I can go do this wherever I want. I don't need anybody's permission.
But how
I was
does
like, all right,
he
fuck off, kid.
How does he survive without making any money? I mean, he's got to have some sort of day job or some sort of income, right? Unless he's got
to pay for the paint.
Sweet sugar mama setup.
Well, no, and then he's trying to, start Patreon. I'm like, oh, so you're begging for money? How about you try to get jobs, douchebag?
Gloss
and that's
Black
what
is a perfect example. Exactly.
Yep.
And he does incredible work.
You can look up one of our videos.
And he does it legally.
He does, right, with permission.
Yep.
So so I taught the class. What's funny is the teacher's daughter was there, the 9-year-old. She would just blurt out statements or questions. It was kind of funny. She's like a human. She's like a computer.
Can you subscribe to my channel, Mr.
No,
Polin?
She actually had valid discussion point. I encourage people to just say things, ask questions. You don't have to raise your hand, just spit it out, because that's what I liked in school. Sorry, I didn't mean to wave my hand at the camera again, Steven.
You did the gesture again. The camera's following you.
It is. Now I just stopped it
but
again.
it is really cool.
Yeah, I put my hand up for
So
those
was she
you can't see
asking
us.
YouTube questions only, I assume, not photography?
No,
is she
was
interested in like video work because she's got to
She
make
was bringing
videos?
up art. She was talking about art. She was bringing up stock prices. She was bringing up other stuff. Yeah. I'm like, what's the stock price of this? She's like, not good, not good. I'm like, and this wasn't a Rain Man situation. She's just smart.
So what is her channel primarily based on? Is it art or
Roblox?
Oh, my
Roblox.
My niece is obsessed with that.
So yeah, she has a Roblox channel.
It's big, man. It's really big.
You want to go search it out and put some negative comments on there? I'm going to go make a channel. Roblox hater 96.
We got to lift them up, Jared. Positive comments. Positive comments.
I think you're doing a great job with your Roblox channel. Congratulations. You've been shortlisted. Please DM me on...
WhatsApp me. Text me. You won a prize.
On Signal or whatever the app is.
Telegram me.
Telegram me. There it is. So anyway, I spoke to my dad's class. It was pretty good. The feedback I have for myself to do better next time is have the overhead projector on, the front projector on, and showcase my work when I mention things. So kind of having like a few slides that show the YouTube channel, so that was on me.
A general
we did have the option to do it.
PowerPoint. Now, we did that actually when you taught at Antonelli that one time. The Truth About Photography speech, we actually had a whole kind of mini slideshow queued up.
That video has over 1 million views, I think.
Yeah, but that's exactly what you should have. You should have that in your back pocket for whenever you do these last minute. Even Zoom, you could do a Zoom presentation and share your slideshow, right?
Yeah, I should probably just put together a PDF. Or
best of
whatever.
The best. I mean, it'll just be all of your photos that you've ever taken.
Well, but the thing was, they started asking questions about photography and images, like who have I photographed, what's interesting, and I tell the story of the Kanye West thing with Johnny Legend, and then the teacher fired up the overhead projector and found it, and then put it up, and everybody was like, "Oh!" And so, yeah, the visuals would have helped. Yeah. Obviously, in art and photography, I should have been focused on the visuals. But
so, how was your dad during all this? Did he have some questions?
He had no questions, but he had some discussion topics that he brought up.
I guarantee he had some
students.
feedback.
He was very proud, he said.
Oh, good.
He was very proud, and it made him feel very good, and that was, so he was happy with that. So I've been texting with the teacher. She says that she wants to, she would be, because I talk about how I hate going to museums without a docent, so she said she'd go if I wanted.
Okay, cool.
I think she was hitting on me.
Oh, hi.
Hot
Single
teacher.
lady?
Hot for teacher. I think she's 45 or 46.
Okay.
She's got a 9-year-old.
Age range, check. Single, check. Teacher, check.
Anything else, Steven?
I want to throw more stuff out there, but I'm not going to right now.
What else are you going to... Oh, you were going to say woman? Were you going to say woman?
No.
Yeah, you are. You were going to say woman. Steven's drinking again. You were going to say woman. Were you thinking it?
Maybe not. Yeah. You'll never know.
Steven, it's all right. I don't have rainbow hair, but even if I did, I've told this story before. This one time? No. I told this story before, though. When my parents, we were at Kitty City, and
I've definitely heard this before.
I got to pick a Care Bear out, and I've told people this plenty of times, that I chose the pink Care Bear with a rainbow on it.
Of course you
because
did.
I liked color.
You liked what?
Color.
I thought you meant to say something else.
Oh, it starts with a C. You're unbelievable, Steven. See, Steven won't say it, but he'll say just enough and then gets me to say it so that I'm the one who who says it.
I didn't say anything.
Anyway, it was a fun time teaching, speaking to my dad's class. I look forward to doing it again. And the feedback for me for going forward is I did introduce myself. I did qualify myself, but let's show the images because that's what I do.
Yeah.
Let's get into the Sony FX30 was announced this week.
Yes, it was. We've had that for, what, a week or so?
Yeah, we had it for a week and a half prior.
Didn't really play with it until later in the week, though.
Well, right. We can't always play with things. So the FX30 is a baby brother to the FX3. The FX3 is a full-frame cinema camera. It's their lowest end, not anymore, cinema camera. And now there is a crop sensor cinema camera called the FX30.
Yeah, apparently to bridge the gap. I mean, this is $1,800 now versus almost $4,000 for the FX3. So I do see somewhat of a gap, but I don't know, man. I'd push people more for the A7 IV unless you're strictly cinema. But if you're taking any type of stills the EVF is still very important when it comes to not needing an external monitor or a hood or anything like that. You could still see in a bright, sunny situation. You could frame up your shot. You don't need to rely on the back of the screen. And it's a couple $100 more. And you're getting a 7K to 4K downsample. You're getting S-Log 3. You're getting all those bells and whistles. I mean, you're not getting raw video.
No. But my thing with this camera is that Sony, when we had a call with them, was pushing the fact that this is for new creators, future creators, TikTokers, content creators.
Which
and it's
is
like
overkill.
This is overkill for them. And as I said in the video, you still need to understand the fundamentals of everything. You can get cinematic. Oh, they were saying it's for people that want that cinematic look. You can get the cinematic look with anything. But if you don't know what you're doing with anything, you're going to end up with garbage.
I think this is actually even a more confusing camera to use than something like an A7 IV or a standard mirrorless camera, because you're dealing with now the Cine Exposure Index. You're dealing with the flexible ISO. You're dealing with the tile menu that has, base ISO of 800 or 2500, and you're kind of, for an entry-level person, it's like, what's that? What does this mean?
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that it has a dual base ISO, just like the FX3, but I don't know. I still tested it out in low light, and I feel like the 2500 base ISO was a little noisy for my liking. We are still dealing with an APS-C sensor, but if you're doing it the real professional way, you should be at the 800 base ISO anyway, and probably not pushing 2500 or more.
Yeah, we can take it all the way back to when I started shooting video in my backyard. I would shoot at whatever shutter speed would
1/4000th of a second.
I was, and the butterflies
Super
flying
jittery.
by. I loved it. I actually liked the look. You hate it. I don't like the slow shutter, the 1/50th of a second. I did like having 1/4000th because I was shooting with an 85-1.4 with me sitting at the chair, probably at 2.8 or so, and I could see the butterflies flying through the air, but at 1/4000th of a second, it kind of looked cool.
Speaking of shutter speed too, it's very odd that they call this a professional cinema camera, but they don't give it proper shutter angle, like 1/48th of a second. They also don't have, an electronic ND, and you're starting to get into that realm where you should be having these in these dedicated cinema cameras, because they're really not still cameras. I don't believe there's a mechanical shutter at all in this. They didn't even talk about it at all, still wise. I mean, technically, we know it takes a 26 megapixel photo, because it is a 26 megapixel sensor, but it's really acting like a 20 megapixel sensor because you're basically in Super 35 at all times. I don't know. I wouldn't be taking photos with this because you're taking it with a non-stacked electronic shutter at that point. I mean, maybe for thumbnails.
And no EVF.
No EVF. Yep, we've gone over that.
Look, it's a nice camera, but for $1,800, you still have to buy external displays if you want. You need to buy the external handle. Now you're up to $2,200.
It gets
then you
up
need
there.
to get
CF
lenses.
Express Type A cards, even though you can use SD, but CF Express Type A, you're looking at like $400 a pop.
Yeah, it's just weird. I think they're segmenting the market way too much. And I think that this TikTok craze and this creator craze is just over the top. You're better off starting with that shitty ZVE10, which is really jello-y, but you can get great results with anything. And that's the most important thing to remember is you can get great results, cinematic look, no matter what you use. And for most of the shit that people put out on the internet, it looks like garbage anyway. And people are so used to seeing garbage, they don't know the difference.
Yeah, and unless you're coming from film school or you grew up being a film enthusiast and watching YouTube tutorials and all that, and you're really into that film cinema world, I mean, yeah, I think that makes sense. This camera makes sense for you, but it's still a very niche market. I still think I'd rather push someone towards the $800 ZV-E10 or an R7 that could do both, or even an A7 IV.
I agree, Steven.
Now, the one thing I do like about the FX30 is the fact that you can do user-imported LUTs, so you can then assign your own LUTs to the image when you're shooting in log, like S-Log3 or something like that, and you could see exactly what it's going to look like in camera, like it's going to look like in post. Now, you can either burn the file in or simply just use it as a view assist tool, and you can see what it looks like, a display tool.
I just think it's overkill, dude.
Yes and no. I will say I did like the quality of the FX30. I was more impressed than how I thought I would be with an APS-C sensor.
I didn't like the color of the final product.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we could do more color grading and perfect it. We've literally used it one time, so there's going to be some growing pains with that. Same thing with the R5 and the other cameras. I've always had to, take some time to really perfect the color and the lighting and all of that. But I think you can still get some pretty good stuff out of this camera for sure.
It wouldn't be my first choice. Now, for professionals who want a B or C camera, an extra camera out on set or something, this less expensive camera that they may want to put into more precarious positions because if it gets blown up versus a FX3 might be a good idea. In the right hands, they're going to do a great job with this camera.
And it will probably be like Netflix certified, like the FX3, so you can use it in a professional production for a Netflix movie or series or whatever it may be.
I think that's bullshit anyway.
I agree.
Because, again...
Well, I think of documentaries that are shot on a freaking phone or a camera from 1990 or whatever.
They still
it doesn't
work.
matter. As long as the content's there.
Netflix certified. So that's the FX30, guys.
Well, and I do want to also real quick talk about the Catalyst Premiere Pro plugin that they now have with this camera. I tried to use it. It would lock up my Premiere. I think it's still in some sort of beta phase and it's not supporting this camera. Also, you have to pay for it. I didn't know that. In the presentation they gave us, they made it seem like it was a free plugin. No. If you don't pay for it, they basically watermark your footage in Premiere. You can download it for free.
Oh.
It just would not work at all. So the thing I like about it is you can basically adjust your active mode stabilization in post versus having it burned in camera, or you can adjust the breathing compensation versus having it burned in camera. But it just would not work at all for me. And from talking to some other creators, it seems like the Catalyst standalone program has always been kind of wonky and buggy. So I can't recommend anyone using that right now.
Okay. Moving on to another photo story centric. We've got the Sony CEO says smartphones quality will surpass single lens cameras in less than 5 years. So I brought up the website. It's in Japanese, so I'm going to try and read it in Japanese.
Oh.
I'm not going to do that, Steven. I'm not going to do that. But it translated with Google Translation. So this is Mr. Teruji Shimizu. And this is a quote. I expect that still images will surpass the image quality of single lens cameras within the next few years. That's really all he said. And so I want to talk about that because some of the other news websites...
He said single lens reflex cameras? Is that what he said?
He didn't say that. See, the other website that I originally saw the story on, it's not Petapixel, said SLR. And it was like, he doesn't say SLR. He says single lens cameras, which are interchangeable ILCs, basically, interchangeable lens cameras.
Or does he mean single lens, attached point and shoot cameras?
No, this is basically saying bigger cameras to me.
Okay.
Still images will exceed the image quality of single lens cameras. I think what they mean, if what single lens cameras means to me means interchangeable lens cameras, unless this is totally lost in translation.
Well, I was going to say the translation, yeah.
But single lens cameras, but how else are you going to think about it, right? That means larger sensors to me.
Well, I'm thinking the mirrorless cameras are ILCs, interchangeable lens cameras, not single lens cameras. So I don't know how that translates and what he actually meant.
I still think that's what he means. Let me go back to that website where I saw it on and see what they have to say, because this website generally does a terrible job.
Now, in the next few years, that's a stretch. I could see him saying in the future, it's going to exceed cameras, higher end professional cameras, but not in the next few years.
No, but I'm just going to say it's not really plausible. And the reason it's not really plausible is because you need bigger glass. If you're going to put bigger sensors in the cameras, in the phones, then yes, you need bigger glass. No, Steven, it's true.
I agree. But then again, you have the iPhones now that they're so damn good with their portrait mode and even shooting RAW on the phone. I mean, it's hard to tell the difference sometimes, like we just showed with the iPhone 14.
Right, but it's not going to surpass because they always have shortcomings.
Yep.
You're not going to be now the Sony cameras, the Sony phones actually have the same tracking as a point and shoot.
They're
so those are getting better.
Hundreds, yeah.
But you can't. There's only so much room inside of a cell phone. So if you can put a bigger sensor in it, how are you going to cover it? How are you going to put a lens on it? If you're going to put a bigger, like Samsung tried this years ago with their Samsung phone, which had a zoom lens on the back built into it.
A protruding zoom lens, or?
Yes, a big zoom lens. It was like a digital camera with a phone in it. And then there was those years where those Sonys and Olympuses made those attachments that Bluetooth attached that acted as better cameras because they had bigger sensors, but they sucked too. They were just slow and it wasn't good. And so I don't see this happening anytime soon. And yes, they talk about how computational photography as part of this will make a difference. It absolutely does make a difference.
I agree.
But there is you're not shooting at 20 frames a second, though those Sony ones do. The iPhone doesn't. It just you're not going to do it with a phone. We can get nice landscapes with the phone. Mm-hmm. We can get basic portraits with the phone.
Good lighting.
With good lighting, you can do the basic stuff.
Yep.
And you can even fake the bokeh. But when you want to do something real, you grab a real camera if you know what you're doing. But for the world, for the 99.999% of the world, they're going to be perfectly fine using whatever camera comes in their phone, and they're going to be happy with it because that's all that matters.
And it also depends on what you're viewing the images on. I mean, if you're looking at a 4 to 5 inch screen, it's going to look fine no matter what it was shot on. But the second you put it on a real monitor and view it, it usually looks terrible.
Or try to print it, which most people don't ever
print it. Yeah.
Try to print.
Mm-hmm.
I love to print, as you know. I print quite often on my Canon ProGraph 1000. This fix RAWtalk is brought to you by not them. No, we haven't put an official plug into here yet, but I think when we get to like 10,000, I told my ad guy, I'm like, we could use this to sweeten the pot. Well, I'm like, if we're trying to get someone to get into Photo News Fix or do a spot somewhere else, you can whetten their appetite by being like, you know what, we'll throw in a little mention here in RAWtalk. That's just the nature of the business, is if you can generate extra money by doing it and you guys still aren't paying for it while you're sitting in your car, it helps us. So you're kind of paying for it because you're listening and then you're being advertised to, or you could just hit the skip button, which I always say you could do, which I do for when I listen to the Pivot podcast. I just hit up and skip.
Yeah, I think we all do.
I think some people do listen. It depends how it's worked in there. It depends how it is, Steven.
Yeah, and now when I'm listening on Spotify, some of the playlists actually have random ads just thrown at you from Spotify itself. Like it's not actually burned into the podcast. I've never seen that before until recently.
That's because Spotify is trying to raise money for not for advertisers. They're trying to get money to split and obviously pay creators so that they advertise, which does bring up something that I did write, and that's a perfect segue, Steven. Oh, Steven gives me the thumbs up like, I know what I'm doing.
You're welcome.
I was either going to skip this next thing if it didn't come up organically, but since it came up organically, I noticed on Spotify the other day that there was a whole audiobook section.
Finally.
And I got all excited. There were 300. They're like, we added 300,000 audiobooks to Spotify. And I'm like, sweet. So my subscription will now get me audiobooks. So I click on an audiobook. I think it was Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers. And it has a lock on the play button. So when you click the lock on the play button, it's like, we will send you an email so that you can pay for the book. And I'm like, no, that's not how Spotify should work.
I mean, you're paying for a subscription, right?
I'm paying for the subscription. I'm not going to go and pay more money on top of that. I mean, I will pay more money if it includes unlimited books, because I won't read that many books. It takes me a while, even with audiobooks. I have like 4 or 5 credits on Audible, because you get 1 credit a month, and I pay like $14.99 a month to get those credits, and they pile up because I don't get through books that quick. Right? Especially if you're going to listen to the Rockefeller book and it's 36 plus hours of listening. That was a long book, and I listened to it at 2.7x speed, and it still took me a while. It took me months to do it, but I got all excited because I like audiobooks, and I thought Spotify had cracked the code where they're going to include these books, and then they're going to pay the artists just like they pay musicians.
One penny for every billion streams.
Well, from what I know from the publishing industry is that they're a bunch of babies, because it's a bunch of old world thinking fucks.
Hey, record labels were like that too, and they cracked the code for that. So who knows? Maybe it's coming.
Well, no, and more money is made in music today than it was back in the heyday in the early 2000s.
Well, when everything was being leaked and stolen and downloaded.
But more money's being made. I mean, it makes sense to share the subscription model, and I know that artists will cry like, "Oh, Spotify doesn't pay us enough." Shut up. Be a better artist.
Yeah,
get
you
seen.
Baby.
You baby. Like, make money. Figure out how to make the money.
I think they should at least have some sort of free section of audiobooks, and then I do understand like an in-app purchase or a license of some sort.
Not for $20. I'm not paying $20 for that audiobook.
Oh, I agree. I clicked on one. It says, want to listen? You can't buy audiobooks in the app, but titles you've purchased on open.spotify.com can be listened on here. Want to learn
antiquated.
more? We'll send you an email.
It's a hard system. I should be able to click on it and just buy it right from there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't work like that. That's where Apple wins with Apple Books, and Spotify or Audible works really well. But so I really think that if Audible or Spotify or Amazon, which also owns Audible, or Apple was able to say for $20 a month, or maybe more, maybe less, you can get unlimited listens of books.
I'd pay for that all day.
I think that authors would end up making more money in the long run, because they will get listens on books that might not have gotten listens before, and people might become aware of them. The same thing as musicians. If you hear songs that you like and they blow up, prime example is Jax with that Victoria's Secret song. Remember, I was following it when it had like a million or 2 downloads. It now has like 40 or 50 million on Spotify.
Wow.
Because it blew up. She made TikToks, and then she put a song out. And so she's going to get paid from that and have appearances. And I think the same thing would happen with authors. It's just that they're so afraid, the publishing company, to lose their grasp on all of the money that they could make. Because I went through this when I was offered book deals in the past, and I just didn't like their models at all. I'm like, why would I have you pay for everything and then get recouped and then give me $2 on a $20 book when I can just do it myself and reach my own people? And that's the problem with that industry.
I'm curious if they're scared that the Barnes and Nobles of the world and those bookstores are going to go out of business, just like most record stores, like the Sam Goody's, those kind of stores. You don't see the CD sales anymore.
No.
Will you see physical book sales? I still think that's a little different than a CD sale, because I still think a lot of people like having a physical book. So I don't think it'll interrupt that industry as much as
I have major troubles with physical books because they're different sizes and I can't make the text larger.
Well, you can't read, yeah.
I got really good with buying Apple books, right? I liked reading those because it can make the text much larger on the 12.9-inch iPad. And then I transitioned into audiobooks because they're just so much better for me.
But I'm saying, like, even like the Kindles, when they first became a thing, it kind of got some people on board, but I still think a lot of those bookworms still preferred an actual physical book.
Well, they do. Nerds. Yeah, they do.
You said it, not me.
Nerds. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being a nerd. I like a nerdy girl.
No, I'm with you though. I prefer an audiobook over a physical book. I just get too distracted when I'm trying to read. I'll end up reading the same sentence and paragraph like 50 times, and I'm like, damn it, ADHD.
That explains so much about the classes you were in school. We talked about that a couple weeks ago. My reading comprehension skills being put in remedial reading.
I mean,
but yeah. Okay, so let's move on to another big story that was sent in to us by a friend. Look, if you want to send something in to us that you think would be rant-worthy, like Scotty doesn't know, the Peloton thing, the wedding photographer shooting film that I did way back in the day, one of my favorite rants of all time was that one. You could text us at 313-710-9729. Be sure to explain the link that you're sending. I will not just click on a link if it's just an empty link. So make sure you say, hey, I found this article on so-and-so. Here's the link. This is the gist of it. You might like it. So a friend sent it to me. It was from the New York Times. Sorry, the failing New York Times. It was from the from the failing New York Times, and it's the title, "The Best Mirrorless Camera." And now this came up, and it was last updated on September 23rd, 2022. So that's last week. And my friend said, yeah, this was served to me. It came up on the front page of the
algorithm gave it to me.
Right, the New York Times website. So when he sends it to me, the only reason I wanted to rip on it is because their pick for best mirrorless camera is the Olympus OMD EM10 Mark IV.
I agree. Case closed.
Yeah, case closed. Is that a beeping? Is that a money truck from Olympus that doesn't exist backing up to your house? Is that Chip barking?
You want to say the best camera, right? Yeah, I definitely agree. That is the best camera there is out there ever in the mirrorless world.
Right. So when I started to read over this article, more so send it to Steven, because I thought the article was short. I didn't realize that if I kept scrolling past all the advertisements that there was...
And I just got sent the link like 15 minutes prior to starting RAWtalk, and I'm like, Jared, this is like a 20-page article. Like, I can't read all this right now. So I will just say I did not read the entire thing because it is extremely lengthy.
Anyway, so at the beginning,
Whoa.
It says... At the beginning of this article, it said, and we actually discovered something, and we'll tell you in a minute. Whether you're looking for better images than a smartphone or point-and-shoot camera can capture, or you want to learn photography or expand on your experience, follow Frono's Photo. Doesn't say that. A mirrorless camera is probably the best choice for you. After more than 220 hours of research and testing over the past 7 years, including real-world shooting with top contenders, we recommend the Olympus OMD EM10 Mark IV, a versatile, high-performing mirrorless camera that's available at a great price. Its advanced features help capture reliable, great-looking images in all kinds of conditions, and its small size makes it easier to carry than most competitors.
See, what I don't like is this blanketed statement of the article name, the best mirrorless camera, and that's it. Because if I
Do you know why?
Why?
Because it's search results.
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's a given. But I want to know, is this the best mirrorless camera for under $1,000, for under $2,000? Like, that's a very broad statement. And then he goes into basically saying the Olympus OMD EM10 Mark IV is the camera we recommend for people looking for the best bang for their buck from a mirrorless camera with semi-professional features. And then they go on to show the XT4, which is their second choice. And they say that's the best mirrorless camera for serious photographers. And then they end with the A7 IV, which is the best full-frame mirrorless camera.
And why this article is misleading is because it says in testing September 2022. And as you start to scroll down and read about more, we've got why you should trust us. I'm Wirecutter's editor of camera and printer coverage and the former senior technology editor for Popular Photography. Prior to that, I served as a senior camera editor at CNET. In my role at Popular, so basically not a real photographer is basically what this is telling me. And you could say that about me, except for the fact that I'm actually a photographer. I actually shoot shit, real shit. That's why I still say that
you look like it with those cool sunglasses on.
Thank you, Stephen. That's why I say that I am a photographer who so happens to review cameras, not like those other channels out there where beep are beep. I'm just trying not to say names of other channels. Why beep and beep and beep are basically... They're basically not photographers. They're reviewers who so happen to try and take pictures of beep, because I don't want to rip and throw people under the bus. I mean, I do. I'm just trying to see how far I could dig this hole, Steven. I wonder if I could dig it all the way to Matt Granger. Oh, that meant China because he lives in China. Well, I'm getting back to my point after Steven cut out the last 3 minutes of me talking because he didn't like what I had to say about ripping on someone. So he's already told me that he's going to cut it out, even though I would probably leave it in myself. This is going to be part of the lost footage that you'll never hear because he doesn't want me getting in trouble.
There's a whole lot of lost footage, I'll tell you that.
So anyway, you could keep all the beeps in there, though. You can go.
Well, I can't take them out because you said them yourself. Beep, beep,
yeah,
beep,
you can't take them out.
Yeah.
What you can do, I guess you want to take out where I talk about that hotel room photographer. Leave that in there. So let me get back to reading why you should trust this person. I was in charge of camera and lens testing procedures and personally field tested all of the cameras, as well as many of the lenses that the publication tested during my tenure. I have been covering mirrorless cameras since the very first models were introduced in 2008. How do you even come up with 220 hours of testing, Steven? I've been shooting since I was 13 years old. Best photographer ever.
Well, you were a professional at 13 years old,
so
right?
that's 27 years of is it 27 years? No, it's 28 years now. It's 28 years, right? If let's see, 28 plus 13, 9, 10. Oh, that's 1. Carry the 41.
So that means you've been a photographer for 245,280 hours.
Yeah. So take that, dude.
Yeah. Take your 220 hours and shove it.
I got more experience than you. So then that's what they had to say. But then Steven pointed out as he scrolled down, because there's really this
After
article.
Reading the article for 5 minutes.
This article goes on forever and ever. We finally get down to the comment section, and one of the comments. Did you want to read the comment, Steven?
Yeah.
The first comment? Read that first one from RJTE from 7 days ago.
So RJT goes on to say, this is a weak analysis. You compare a very high-end Fujifilm to the Canon M200. M200 is a beginner's mirrorless camera. You then say Canon's EOS RP is the better of the company's 2 full-frame mirrorless cameras at the moment. That statement is absolutely incorrect. Canon makes the RP, the R, the R6, R5, and the R3. That's 5 full-frame mirrorless cameras. The R5 came out in 2020. I've owned it from the day it was available in my area. It's a superb camera. They have a full lineup of very good lenses. Wirecutter staff should be ashamed of themselves for publishing this.
And Michelle's response?
Michelle goes on to say, hey there, our writer will make corrections for these out-of-date competition entries. He's actually waiting on a Canon mirrorless camera to test right now as well. So he'll also add some notes and what to look forward to section about the model he'll be testing. And then RGT responds, one camera? Canon makes the M50, the M50 Mark II, M6 Mark II, R7, R10, and 1 or 2 other besides the 5 models I just mentioned. You are waiting on? Really? You work for the New York Times. One camera? And then this other guy chimes in and says, I do get the sense, though, that Wirecutter has slowed down a bit in recent years. Some of the articles are not published until nearly a year or even more after the reviewed products release, sometimes not until after these products are more or less old. We consumers want to read your article, get convinced your picks are the best, and then buy them. We don't want to read an article about what the best products were in a category several years ago, as if we are studying the historical record. Of course, some of this is out of their control. Olympus hasn't updated many of their bodies for more than 3 years.
They're out of business.
Exactly. They say there appear to be some categories Wirecutter has completely given up on. For example, a few years ago, Wirecutter had a guide for small cars and electric cars. Now they have nothing. A little concerned funding has dried up for testing all the stuff, perhaps since the New York Times acquisition. Don't know exactly how they finance it.
Yeah, so then if you keep clicking on comments to add more, we get back to 6 years. So now you start to realize
back to 7 years.
Oh, you found
even
7
more.
years?
And I think that's why he says he's been reviewing cameras for 7 years in the beginning.
Oh, yeah. So the confusing thing here, and I contacted my guy who sent this to me because we were debating, do we even talk about this now because it's so out of date? But I think it is important to talk about. And the guy that I sent it to said he took a screen grab. It comes up in Google search. And I talked to another person who used to work at magazines for in the photo world. He's like, so these are what they used to do because they would keep updating the same article because Google loves
SEO.
this type of stuff.
Yep.
It's not even just the SEO for search. It's they love the fact that something's 7 years old and is still getting traffic.
Sure.
And because it's still getting traffic, it thinks it's relevant. So it
It
pushes
ranks
it
higher.
up. to the top of the search. But the problem is it's shitty information. This is shitty information because it's outdated.
It's basically an ever-evolving article, but you get to the point where sometimes it's 2 years old, outdated, and it's still saying the best mirrorless cameras, and clearly they're not the newest, latest, and greatest.
Right, and it's like someone going back to a video of mine from 6 years ago and then trying to comment with modern information and be like, you were so wrong. I was like, well, first of all, if you look at the date and it says 6 years ago, you got to look at it through the lens of 6 years ago. If you look at an article like this New York Times Wirecutter article that's from 6 days ago, you look at it from the eyes of 6 days ago, not from that this has information from 7 years, because it's still, because someone who doesn't know is just going to click on this and be like, I need to go buy this Olympus camera or an M200, which I didn't even know what the fuck an M200 was, but it's an early shitty mirrorless camera from Canon.
I've never even heard of it. Yeah.
Sensor.
Yeah, and there was other comments too. Like Ken the Wolverine said, Wirecutter reviews, at least of stuff I like, are so out of date these days that I read them mostly for laughs.
Well, then Wolverine, you need to get a life.
I'm just saying, it seems like this is what they do. They're usually out of date articles and that need to be updated, and then they eventually update them, but there's still some very outdated information in there, like talking about the RP being the latest and greatest from Canon, or this M200 being a recommended camera at all.
Well, and if he I didn't read the full article because it's too much, but I wonder if he legitimately said that the RP was a better choice than the R of the two cameras. Right? Those were the two full frame cameras. Let me actually look it up because I can Control F it. Control F, Canon R. Nope, nothing came up for Canon R.
He says specifically, Canon's EOS RP was the better of the company's two full-frame mirrorless cameras when they launched the system, and when we tested it, it performed well but didn't have a selection of lenses that made us think it was a better choice than our pick. So yeah, he's essentially saying that was better than the R right there.
Oh, well, which he loses all validity. But wait, there's more. It says we're currently testing the EOS R7 and R10 to see how they fare against our non-full frame picks. This is just a bullshit article. I'm just going to have to go ahead and stamp this with bullshit. Bullshit.
And they also recommend like the Z6, but why aren't you talking about the Z6 II, which also at this point is almost a little outdated, you know?
That was outdated when it came out, Steven.
Oh, I didn't say it. You did. That's the theme of this podcast.
But the reason I'll call bullshit, I'm not calling bullshit on the article, on the writer or the author. I'm calling bullshit on the fact that they keep updating an old article. It should be the best mirrorless camera going into 2023. That should be your research. It should be the best mirrorless cameras going into 2023 for 2023, and then that lasts for a year. Then you redo it again. Then you come up with other things, the best 5 cameras, but they probably don't have money, Steven.
The best budget-friendly cameras, the best whatever, you know, it needs to be more of a specific title.
You writing this down, Steven? You writing this down?
What clickbait titles can we do today?
How many pictures does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop?
I'm just thinking, though, if we did an actual YouTube video saying the best, just calling it the best mirrorless cameras, or no, he says camera, right?
He says
camera. And then we said the OMD Mark IV E10, whatever
the best
it's called.
mirrorless camera, period. End of story.
Could you imagine like people from the Nikon, Sony, Canon camp being like, what? You didn't say the A1 or the Z9 or the R3? And you pick the Olympus OMD EM10 Mark IV? I mean, that is clickbait.
Steven, it's like that one time that DP Review said that the Samsung N whatever the hell that Samsung camera was the best camera.
When they were sponsored by Samsung?
When they were sponsoring that event that was a major failure in Seattle.
What was that called? Pix 2015 or something?
Oh, I don't remember what it was called, but it was really bad. Thus why they never did it again. But they picked so many Sony. I have a question. Do you remember being at that event where they were announcing the winners?
I do. Yep.
Was Mark Weir so this is someone who's really big.
I didn't know Mark Weir at the time.
Super knowledgeable, works at Sony. He's like their head tech person who knows every in and out of all the Sony cameras. I'm pretty sure he might have worked for Samsung at that time in their camera division, and it was before Sony hired him. I could be wrong.
Yeah, but there was a guy that was talking to us specifically. He was like the engineer behind that NX camera or whatever it was that won like the best camera. That wasn't Mark Weir. I thought that was Mark. No, that was somebody else.
It was?
It was definitely somebody else, yeah.
Here, I'm pulling up his LinkedIn. That's not Mark Weir, though. This is Senior Scientist Immunology at Hotspot Therapeutics. That's not the actual Mark Weir. Jeez. I could ask somebody. They would know. But I thought that's what it was. Mark Weir. Yeah, Sony. Oh, I think I found his LinkedIn. Yep, that's him. That's who it is. Oh. Yeah, but I'm absolutely wrong.
He's
Do you want to know why I'm absolutely
for
wrong?
36 years.
He's been working there for 36 years and 9 months. I'm sorry, Mark. You were not at Samsung. You were there at Sony for 36. It's someone who's been at 36 years and 9 months.
And for those wondering, his current title is Senior Manager of Technology at Sony Electronics.
Which is pretty good because...
He's a good dude.
Oh, wait. He's been in that same role for 36 years and 9 months.
Wow. Imagine the changes you've seen from 1986 to now.
Yeah, beta.
In the camera world. Yeah.
He had beta. He's like basically my whole life he's been at Sony.
Mark's a smart guy, I'll tell you that.
So it might have been, it was obviously someone else.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't know Mark at the time, but it definitely was not him, the guy we were talking about from Samsung.
Can I say that I helped a woman last week?
Sure.
She signed up for a mentorship, and this isn't a plug for mentorships, but she did photos. It was interiors of like Williams-Sonoma and all these other stores because her husband does some of the woodworking and building out of the stores.
Oh, cool.
And then the stores hire her, these companies hire her to go in with a Matterport, which is the camera that allows you to do these
tours and stuff, right? Yeah.
Right, but they also ask for some regular photos, and so she picked up a Nikon, which is obviously a really good choice on a tripod for stuff like this, I think.
I wonder if the Matterport is hard to work. I'm sure you have to use their proprietary software.
I don't think it is at this point. I don't think the Matterport's hard to work at all.
I think there's like realtors using it, right?
Yeah, yes.
It's got to really be like a quick point and shoot type deal setup.
I would say that it's pretty easy at this point. But so she was showing me photos, and she was using some 12 millimeter lens the whole time, on a crop sensor camera. Everything was just shot ultra wide, no touching up to the color, mixed lighting in there from stuff out of position, lines not straight. So we went through the critique, and I pointed all of this out. I'm like, I was going through the pictures, like I would arrow through, and I would stop on what I thought was a good photo, and it'd be like, look at this, you're at 17 millimeters now. So you're at like a 28 or a 25 or 30 millimeter equivalent. I'm like, you see the difference. And I would go through again, and then my eye would be caught by another one. And I'm like, you see the difference. I was always stopping on the ones that weren't ultra wide. So I gave her the feedback. Don't shoot everything ultra wide. Move stuff around if it's out of position. I know you can't move the heavy stuff, but look for straight angles. Look for straight lines. Look for better lighting. Make sure this is how you tweak it in the white balance to make it look better. And so I had her send me. She's like, I'm going out to shoot again. Is it all right if I send you photos? And I wasn't charging her for this. I said, send me a link to more photos. She sent me a link a week later to her next batch of photos, and I sent back fucking awesome.
Oh, that's great.
Because everything we talked about. Actually, I used Mike Kelly's website. I went to Mike Kelly, who's an architectural photographer that we know, who's really good.
Oh, yeah.
And I showed her some of his interiors. I'm like, yeah, he does this, and this, but I want to show these as examples. And I'm like, you could also look at these companies' magazines, the catalogs they put out. You look at their Instagram feeds. You look at Pinterest. You look at the photos that they're publishing. That's what you should be replicating. So she came back with great lines, using the longer lens, the 17 to 70, using the longer end of it, to get the 35 or the 50 millimeter equivalent, better editing, and everything was so much better and spot on. I was like, you nailed it. And it was just that little kick in the ass she needed.
Sure. And I think with architecture photography in general, or real estate photography, something like a tilt shift lens is night and day too. Or using, if you can't afford that, something like the transform tool, where it really straightens out your lines when you're using more of and it does a great job for the most part. I showed it to her. Sometimes it's a little wonky, but it really basically turns your super wide angle lens into a tilt shift lens and straightens all the lines out. What I never got is mixed lighting, man. I just think when they turn on all the indoor lighting and then they have, say, windows open for daylight outside, it just looks so bad. I would just rather not turn the lighting on at all, open the windows up, and have one consistent white balance across the board.
That's what I did. I used to do that in houses.
It's like we're photographers.
Well, I used to do a shitty job shooting the houses with the widest lens possible.
And you got HDR too, but you don't go overkill on it.
I would never did that, but I would, turn off the lights, open the windows, do longer exposures, just click, done, give them their photos. It was good enough for the houses that they were trying to sell.
And typically what you're getting paid, you just need good enough for that kind of work.
Exactly.
And someone like Mike Kelly, he's doing HDR, but like in his own way, in camera for the most part, where he's running around with a strobe and firing it off and lighting up every little area of the house, and then stacking that in post.
We got in trouble in Jerusalem for him doing that, by the way.
Really? Why?
Because we were at the Holy Sepulchre.
Oh.
Your mom would know what that is.
Okay.
The Holy Sepulchre is where they brought Jesus. Dan's calling.
My mom's super religious for those.
Dan's calling. So the Holy Sepulchre is, I believe, where they took Jesus after he died off the cross and they laid him there.
Okay.
So we're inside this Holy Sepulchre area, and Mike has a tripod set up and he's got a flash, and he's going all around with his. He doesn't use an iPad. It wasn't an iPad at the time, and he's triggering it, taking flash photos until some monk comes over. I don't know if it was a monk or somebody in a robe who wanted to diddle a little boy came over and was like, you can't do this, like, because they want money, because they want you to pay, because it's like if the National Geographic comes in, they want you to pay because that's the church. Give us money. It's not the synagogue. The synagogue's not like give us money. It's the church.
Well, I assume at that point they assume he's a professional and that he's going to be making money off it from that. I don't know.
We didn't just lose some followers, did we, Steven?
Probably.
No, but they wanted money for that because they think it's commercial, and it wasn't.
That's
so we
what I mean,
got in trouble in Jerusalem. The moral of the story is that the lady did the boot camp. It's not the boot camp. Did the mentorship, and we talked and showed examples, and she went out and she crushed it.
It's great to give someone advice and then for them to actually take action on it and see their progression through their journey. And the outcome.
But sometimes and we all need it. Sometimes there's one nugget, just one little thing that someone takes from something that changes everything.
Well, the worst is when you give them that kick in the ass and you tell them every single thing they need to know about something and they don't take action. And then it's a waste of your time.
It's the same thing we did with YouTube. With people that wanted to start YouTube channels. I mean, just look at Alex, what's her name?
Alex. Who's Alex?
Alex, who Call Her Daddy podcast.
Oh,
she wouldn't be successful unless she was on and if she wasn't on my podcast before she started anything. It's not true. Not true. She became successful because she became really fucking successful. But for those who don't know and who know the Call Her Daddy podcast, Alex, can you look that up, Steven?
Cooper.
I forget her name.
Cooper.
Oh, Alex Cooper. That's right. She was actually on my podcast because she was shadowing this guy Dave Leno at a soccer match, and then I was like, "Oh, you're hot. You should come in on RAWtalk." And so she came into
That's exactly
RAWtalk.
what you said.
That's basically what I said. Came into RAWtalk, and she's like, "I'm thinking of doing this, and I want to do this." So I was just doing one of these brainstorms where a brain dump where you give some people some feedback and some help, and then she went on. I actually gave her microphones too. We gave her a Rode. I think we gave her a Rode something, and then she ends up starting Call Her Daddy podcast. It's not because of us, but she figured it out and crushed it and got paid $60 million by Spotify for 3-year exclusive.
Man,
pretty amazing.
Good for her.
Anyway, you want to submit anything? You want to text us 313-710-9729. You want to leave some hashtags on our latest videos? It's always cool when you listen to RAWtalk and then you go onto the Photo News Fix and you say something like hashtag shut the hell up, Jared. You went off on a tangent too far, hashtag. I know, come up with some funny hashtag from the show. We used to do that too back in the day, and leave them as comments and say, so that I know it and Steven knows it and other people won't if they don't listen.
Well, and I think you should maybe end with like hashtag RAWtalk17 so we know 10 years
what
down
episode?
The road when you're listening to this episode and you randomly
this is
comment.
18 though.
Or 18, yeah.
All right, Steven, let's call it a day and get back to work.
Let's do it.
This isn't work. We got to get back to work.
I mean, I'm going to have to edit it, so I'd say it's work.
All right. Thank you guys very much for listening. That's Steven over there. I'm Jared with my glasses still on. RAWtalk episode 18. I think my eyes have gotten much better, but I actually like sitting in front of this retina display with my glasses on because it's so fucking bright and sharp. All right. Jared Polin, FronosPhoto.com. See ya. Bye.
Goodbye,
Bye.
Terminator 2.
Bye. Bye. T2000. Bye.